everybody. I'm so excited. I am so excited. I'm excited because for today's video, we will be going through the Women's Prize for Fiction Long List 2024. I did do a very quick first impressions reaction to the list when it was announced about a week ago, almost a week ago. And I think I mentioned in that video how much I loved the Women's Prize, so we're not gonna wax poetic about it here. I was bummed because last year I wasn't like super into reading. I mean, like I say that, but like I wasn't in my reading flow last year. I didn't really get into any book prizes. I did not read the Women's Prize long list. And this year I'm really pleased. I'm really happy because it's been an amazing reading year so far. And I've been excited to pick up books. I've been reading a lot. I've been really interested in what I've been reading. And the Women's Prize being announced really has been no exception to that rule this year. So I just am kind of leaning into my joy. I'm leaning into my book joy. And I've decided I'm going to read the entire long list. I'm going to read the entire long list. After looking through all the books that were announced, I'm very excited about pretty much all of them. I mean, there aren't any books on the list where I'm like, I literally don't want to read that. Oh my goodness, I would never read that. I'm actually very excited. And again, I love the Women's Prize because it introduces me to books I would have otherwise like never picked up. And sometimes I find some of my favorite books of all time. So I just think it's fun. It's a fun little reading project and I'm happy to be happy about it, you know? So we're leaning into joy. I did go to Barnes & Noble for some of these books. It's about, again, almost a week. It's a few days-ish after the long list announcement. Immediately after the long list announcement, I went into Barnes & Noble. I grabbed 3 books and then I went to a different local Barnes & Noble because they had 3 different books in stock that the first bookstore did not have. The rest of the books I did have to acquire online. I have not yet received all of them in the mail. I think I'm still waiting on 3 of them. I'm waiting on A Trace of Sun. I am waiting on In Defense of the Act. And I am waiting on, oh my gosh, what's it called? I'm waiting on Soldier Sailor by Claire Kilroy. Those will be coming, I think, in the beginning of April, which is cool because the shortlist is announced, I believe, at the end of April. The winner is announced on June 13th. First, let's go shopping. Okay, so we're gonna start Jonathan Abernathy, You Are Kind. What is this? Okay, we found our first night bloom in the basket. Ooh, the next one. Ordinary Human Feelings. People think I'm weird. Oh my god, I just realized Tom Lake is not on there. That's kind of surprising. I wasn't super interested in it though, if I'm being honest. I don't even know what exactly is out in the US yet, so I think I need to do that research. Oh, look at this cover. Okay, we're here for Women's Prize books. Oh, this could have been on the prize. That's a pretty cover. Okay, I'm getting so distracted. I low-key would have wanted to see this book there. I'm very interested in reading it at some point. My Barnes & Noble does not have The Wren, and Soldier Sailor does not come out in the US till June 4th. So I will be ordering that online. Both of those online. It's really dangerous for me to be at Barnes & Noble. I'm getting so distracted. Like, look at this. This is pretty. I can't. Okay, Barnes & Noble says River East, River West, wow, that's hard to say, is stocked here, so I'm looking for it. Yay. Okay, so as of now, I can only find 3 books at Barnes & Noble. So I might go to another one. I looked online. A lot of them just aren't available in the US yet. But we have River East, River West, Ordinary Human Failings, and Night Bloom. So we're gonna get these. Now I wanted to walk through all of the books. So we'll start with Enter Ghost. This is the book that I have read already. This is by Isabella Hamad. This was the only book that I had owned previously to the list being announced. I thought that the synopsis sounded very intriguing, and I will be reading this with my grandmother. So this is about a woman who is from London. She goes back to Palestine where her family is, or was. Her sister is still there, and she's on vacation. She's an actress. She's kind of going to take a break from work and to like go back to Palestine. She has not been there in like 10 years. While she's there, she has a friend who kind of ropes her into performing in her play, which is Hamlet, and it will be performed in the West Bank. I ended up giving this 4 stars. I do not think that it was perfect. It felt a little bit, how do I say, disjointed. Sometimes while reading it, it felt like a lot of it didn't, or some of it just didn't particularly flow between the topics that were kind of going on. But I think that it was a really good book. It really moved me. I cried while reading it. I didn't like ugly cry, but my tears were falling out of my eyeballs. And it was a really, really beautiful look at how it was almost like a literary analysis of Hamlet, I feel like, at certain points. The style and form was interesting in certain areas as well. So I am really glad that I picked this up. I'm really glad it was on the Women's Prize long list, and I really recommend reading it outside of the Women's Prize. So yeah, that's Enter Ghost. And then the book that I'm currently reading, I'm hoping to finish it today, but we'll see. We have Night Bloom by Peace Adzo Mehdi. One thing that I do think is interesting, sorry, I'm jumping around, I do think is really interesting about the prize this year is that there are no really thick books, which makes me super happy, especially deciding to want to read the whole list. That there's nothing over 400 pages. I believe the longest book is 380 pages, and I believe that is A Trace of Sun by Pam Williams. But I think that's fantastic, that we don't have any chunksters to kind of hold us back anyway. Again, I'm about halfway through, hoping to finish today, and this is a book, well, the blurb sells it, and it's kind of being sold as a book about cousins who live in Ghana. One of the cousins goes to America, and one of them stays in Ghana. And it's about their relationship. They're very close. They're like sisters, and they grew up like sisters, and how their lives kind of diverged. They don't talk to each other anymore. And then it comes to a point where they do meet each other again. And we get this book from both of their perspectives. So about 140 pages was from Akorfa's perspective, which is the name of one of our cousins, and then we have Selassie, who I am now reading from her perspective. I think this is so well done. This has already made me tear up as well. I'm very into this book, very much so into it. So anyways, I was saying it's kind of sold as a cousin story, it's like a sister story, but really to me it's more so about being a daughter. It's more so about relationships with our mothers and how they really do dictate our worldview, or who raises us at least completely dictates our worldview and our values a lot of the time. And that has been really moving to me. This has been doing such a good job too at capturing the different characters' voices and perspective. This is all about perspective, so fascinating. I'm not a fan of Akorfa as a character. She really bothered me, but I'm really loving, and I still loved reading her section. I think it's very technically well done, and I do like Selassie a little bit more. But anyway, that's Night Bloom. Then let's go on to the books that I have not yet read. First, we have Brotherless Night by V.V. Ganeshanathan. I had not previously heard of. I have seen this longlisted for the Carol Shields Prize, which is a prize very similar to the Women's Prize, but based in the United States and Canada. And from what I understand, this is about a 16-year-old girl, Sashi. She wants to be a doctor, but there's political unrest in Sri Lanka where she lives, and it has to do with her relationship with her brothers who end up fighting in the I don't know if it's like in the military or what they're doing, but I've seen a lot of people online read the first line of this, and I wanted to do it with you again as well because it's a pretty striking first line. It goes, "I recently sent a letter to a terrorist I used to know." I am intrigued to read this. I'm definitely intrigued to read this. I'm excited. I think that this one and another one that I'll get to later are probably the ones that I'm least excited to read. But that being said, I'm still excited to read all of them. Then we have a book, okay, and then The Maiden. We have The Maiden on the list by Kate Foster. I had never heard of this, and I think a lot of people are griping about the cover, which I completely understand. I think that it would be like cute if the girl wasn't there. Do you see that? If the girl wasn't there, I feel like it could be cute. Cuter, at least. And it's got pineapples and what have you on the end pages, which is kind of neat. Never previously heard of this, but I'm actually really excited to get to this one. I'm really excited to get to it. I think it's just going to be a fun story set in Scotland, I believe in the 1600s, yeah, 1679. And it's about a woman who is arrested and charged with the murder of her lover. So, I don't know, I feel like it's just going to be a fun, engrossing, maybe mysterious, good time. And I love that it's set in Scotland, and I love that it's set in the 1600s. I think that's very interesting. This is not something that I would have ever probably heard of. It definitely would not have picked up if it weren't on the Woman's Prize. But I'm happy that it is because I am intrigued to read it. And then we do have the Booker Overlap book, which I think is the shortest book on the list. We have Western Lane by Chetna Maru. I think it's a pretty cool cover. It's all about squash. I think this was shortlisted for the Booker Prize, but this is about an 11-year-old girl whose mother dies. And I believe that the family, she has siblings and a father, and I believe that the family all cope with the death of the mother in different ways. It's supposed to be all about grief, and she's supposed to be a really great squash player, probably about passion and intensity of a sport, which I actually find to be really intriguing. I've seen a lot of people being like, they're put off by this book because it's about sports and what have you, or a sport. But I think that it's actually really fascinating, especially seeing a female be so competitive in a particular sport and be passionate about it and see her go to practices and like what her training is like. I'm personally interested in that. That reminds me of the book Headshot. I forget the name of the author, but it's not on this list. It was predicted a couple of times on a couple people's predictions list, and that I believe is about a collection of women who are really into boxing. And that was one that really intrigued me in everyone's predictions videos because I'm very interested in that. I just think it's cool. Like, we don't get too many books about like women in athletics as the representation of that. And I personally, it being an interest of mine in my personal life, would like to see more of that. So yeah. And then we have 8 Lives of a Century-Old Trickster by Marine Lee. I apologize, I do not know how to pronounce the first name of this author. Again, I had not previously heard of this book. I think it's a pretty cool cover, actually. And this one is about a woman who is older. She's, I think, in a retirement home. She's recounting the story of her life, or lives, maybe, to one of her caregivers, or to somebody. I'm not exactly sure who. She's supposed to have had a very fascinating life. I believe it's primarily set in North Korea, North and South Korea. A riveting and genre-bending debut of love and survival set in the demilitarized zones separating North and South Korea. Sounds very interesting. She's a slave, escape artist, murderer, terrorist, spy, lover, mother. Very much so intrigued. It's blurbed by Monica Ali, which is interesting because I believe she's the chair of this year's Women's Prize. The only thing that makes me wary about it is because it does sound like a book that wants to be long, like a sweeping epic about this woman's life and probably about politics and history and what's going on in the world. And it's quite slim, which I prefer short books. But this sounds like it wants to be a long book, just based off the blurb. So I hope that it's done well, basically. I'm sure it is if it's on the list, but I hope that it's done well. But yeah, that's 8 Lives of a Century-Old Trickster. It sounds like it's gonna read quite quickly. So that's pretty cool. And then, okay, so this next book, I am so excited about it. It's another one I'm most excited about. It's oh my gosh, I can't talk. It's The Blue Beautiful World by Karen Lord, which is another one I absolutely have never heard of before. Probably would have never heard of it if it were not on this list. This is a science fiction novel about climate change, the climate crisis. And let's see if I can it just sounds goofy. It sounds funny, goofy. It sounds kind of cool and unique, which I'm really interested in it, and I hope I love it. Earth is being observed from afar by other civilizations, and now they are ready to make contact. I actually want to read this blurb because, again, it just sounds goofy, and I'm interested in it. Vying to prepare humanity for first contact are a group of dreamers and change makers, including Peter Hendricks, the genius inventor behind the most advanced VR tech, Carissa, a beloved celebrity icon with a passion for humanitarian work, and Kanoa, a member of a global council of young people drafted to reimagine the relationship between humankind and alien societies. And they may have an unexpected secret weapon, Owen, a pop megastar whose ability to connect with his adoring fans is more than charisma. His hidden talent could be the key to uniting Earth as it looks towards the stars. But Owen's abilities are so unique that no one can control him, and so seductive that he cannot help but use them. Can he transcend his human limitations and find the freedom he has always dreamed of? Or is he doomed to become the dictator of his nightmares? Yeah, I don't even really know what to expect. I just think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be fun and goofy and unique, and I'm really excited for this one. We have Hangman by Maya Binyam, which I think is such a beautiful cover. My partner hates this cover. I've been leaving it sitting by, on the TV stand, and he's like, I just hate that cover. I think it's beautiful. Look at all the colors. I'm sorry, I'm into the vanity of the books. The book world, is that how you would say it? I'm into the beauty, the material beauty of a book, okay? I like that it's slim. I really like that it's a nice little slim book. As I mentioned, a lot of these books are, which is great. But this is about a man who returns home to sub-Saharan Africa after 26 years in America. And he meets all these people that know him, but he doesn't know. And he's trying to refamiliarize himself with his old home. That's what I've got. I've heard it's interesting, quirky, maybe has some magical realism. I don't know. In Hangman, Maya Binyam tells the story of that search for his brother. Sorry, I didn't read the beginning paragraph. And the phantoms, guides, tricksters, bureaucrats, debtors, taxi drivers, relatives, and riddles that will lead to the truth. An existential journey, a tragic farce, a slapstick tragedy, and a strangely honest story of one man's stubborn quest to find refuge in this world and in the world that lies beyond it. Then we have Restless Dolly Maunder by Kate Grenville, which, again, I just think the cover is super, super charming. Absolutely charming. I love all the orange, the blues, and the greens. And this has a really stunning end papers. So this was the other one that I'm probably, along with Brotherless Night, still excited to read, but initially when I heard about it was probably one of the ones that I was least excited about. This is about a woman named Dolly Maunder, who was born at the end of the 19th century. She's born at the end of the 19th century, and it's about her basically trying to find independence and becoming an independent woman. I just feel like the blurb sounded kind of generic. However, the more I have thought about it and seen this beautiful cover sitting on my, what is this called? Sitting on my table, I have been more interested in picking it up. This is the author on this list who has previously won the prize. So she won, and I am making up this date, but around the early 2000s, for her book, The Idea of Perfection. She is, I believe, an Australian author. Dolly Mander is born at the end of the 19th century when society's long locked doors are just starting to creak ajar for determined women. She grows up in a poor farming family in South Wales, and she spends her life pushing at those doors. She has a husband and 2 children that won't deter her from searching for love and independence. We then have a couple of Irish writers. So there are 3 Irish authors on this list. There's Soldier Sailor by Claire Kilroy, and then there are these 2, which again, Soldier Sailor will be arriving to me hopefully at the beginning of April. We have The Wren by Anne Enright, and we have Ordinary Human Failings by Megan Nolan, which are both beautiful and green. Ooh, love these. I've read a couple of books by Anne Enright. I've read Actress by her, and I've read The Green Road. I also own The Gathering by her, which I have not yet read. I love Irish authors. I really do love Irish authors. I think that they capture something about the quiet pain of life. I really think that they do, and they do it so well. This book, so The Wren, is supposed to be about a family, and we follow so we have a mother and a daughter. We follow the daughter who leaves home. She's at the age where she leaves home. She's thinking back about her family, and how they've affected her and what her life has been like. Her grandfather, so her mother's father, was a famous poet that I believe a lot of people think was amazing, but he was actually, from what I understand, not quite the nicest of people at home, which I find that to be a really fascinating and intriguing concept, and I'm really looking forward to reading this one. I think that she's a really skilled author. Ordinary Human Failings by Megan Nolan, which I so wanted to be on this list, and it is, and I'm so happy about it. Another slim, again, Irish slim novel from an Irish author. I did not read Acts of Desperation by Megan Nolan, which was her debut novel. It was her debut author, by the way. Did you know that? Which was her debut novel, but this is set in the 90s in London, and it's about a family of Irish immigrants. And I believe that it's from the perspective, I don't know if the whole time it's from the perspective of this journalist, but we start from the perspective of this male journalist. But this is about a young child who had died, and the people believe that the daughter, the 7-year-old daughter from this Irish family, is the murderer. So I find that premise to be really fascinating. This is blurbed by Karl Ove Knausgaard, which I think is really interesting as well because I love his writing. Yeah, I want to read the first sentence of this as well because I do believe it is my favorite. Down below in Schuyler Square, the trouble was passing quickly from door to door, mothers telling mothers, not speaking aloud but somehow saying, baby gone, bad man, wild animal. I just think that's really striking. So very excited for Ordinary Human Failings. The last 2 that I have here, we have River East, River West, which I just love the US cover. And this one, so this is set in Shanghai, and it oscillates between the year 2007 and 1985, I believe. And we follow a family comprised of a mother and a daughter and a new stepfather. So it's about this young girl and her dislike, and she doesn't like her stepfather, maybe about their relationship, or it's each one of their stories, which I think sound incredibly interesting. It's set against the backdrop of developing modern China. It's a coming-of-age tale, family, social drama, and it follows 2 generations searching for belongings and opportunity in a rapidly changing world. This sounds interesting now, reading the blurb and having read half of Night Bloom. I think that these both sound like they're, obviously grappling with perspective, and the stories we tell ourselves about, like, the reality we construct around the lives that we're living, and how that can be completely different to all the people living essentially in the same circle of life. So I'm very, very excited to get to this one. And I love how this list is set in so many places across the world. Another book that I had never heard of, but this is one of the ones that I'm most excited to get to. That is And Then She Fell by Alicia Elliot, which I love the cover because you can see kind of the beading and what have you. So this one is from a Canadian author, and it's about a woman who has recently given birth and she's struggling with postpartum depression. Let me read the blurb to you. So on the surface, Alice is exactly where she thinks she should be. She's just given birth to a beautiful baby girl. Her charming husband, Steve, a white academic whose area of study is conveniently her own Mohawk culture, is nothing but supportive. And they've moved into a new home in a posh Toronto neighborhood. But Alice could not feel like more of an imposter. She isn't connecting with her daughter, a struggle made even more difficult by the recent loss of her own mother, and every waking moment is spent hiding her despair from Steve and their ever watchful neighbors, among whom she's the sole Indigenous resident. Even when she does have a minute to herself, her perpetual self-doubt hinders the one vestige of her old life she has left. Her goal of writing a modern retelling of the, I'm not going to pronounce this correctly, Haudenosaunee, I apologize, creation story. Then, as if all that wasn't enough, strange things start to happen. She finds herself losing bits of time and hearing voices she can't explain, all while her neighbor's passive-aggressive behavior begins to morph into something far more threatening. Though Steve assures her this is all in her head, Alice cannot fight the feeling that something is very, very wrong, and that in her creation story lies the key to her and Dawn, her daughter's, survival. She just has to finish it before it's too late. That sounds so fascinating. So fascinating. So it has some maybe magical realism, maybe some horror elements. I like that it's about mythology, about family, it's about motherhood. I'm really excited to get to And Then She Fell. I think I'm going to save it because I'm so excited to get to it. But that is that. This list is very interesting, and I think that it's really interesting that a lot of these books do revolve around themes of motherhood. And also of being a daughter. A lot of these books, again, like I said, they're set all over the freaking world, man. That's so cool. So yeah, do any of these books sound interesting to you? Were you familiar with The Woman's Prize before watching this video? Maybe perhaps you were. Are you planning on reading any of these? Have you read any of these yet? Wow, it's like half out of the frame. Have you read any of these books yet? I love The Woman's Prize, and I'm very excited to continue my reading of all these books. So yes, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.